So the NCAA released findings today that anybody with about half a brain could have figured out, and that is that Michigan committed recruiting violations during the COVID-19 pandemic under Jim Harbaugh. It goes back to the old hamburger gate that Michigan fans incorrectly would like to tell you that the NCAA was investigating Jim Harbaugh for buying a recruit a hamburger, which has always been poppycock, ridiculous bullcrap. They know that that was not the case, but it sure makes their football program look better if it appears as if the NCAA is coming down on them for nefarious reasons rather than the truth, in that Jim Harbaugh buying a recruit a hamburger proves that he was meeting with recruits at a time when the NCAA said you cannot do that. It's as open and shut of a case as it can be. Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, and in return, Michigan fans tried to go to the school of, I didn't do that, and if I did, it's not that big of a deal. It's not how it works when the evidence, it literally is open and shut. The NCAA says, hey, during the COVID-19 pandemic, you cannot meet in person with recruits for obvious reasons. You don't want to be the reason that the virus spreads. It's pretty simple. Don't meet with recruits in person. Then we have evidence of you meeting in person with recruits after, like, and it's not even like an interpretation of the, it's literally we said clear as day, do not do X, Y, Z. It's one of my, I really enjoy starting a sentence with, like, when you're reminiscing with your buddies from high school and you're like, yeah, so my mom had told me like 100 times, do not do ABC. So there I was doing ABC. And it's the exact same case. The NCAA says, do not do this. So there Jim Harbaugh was doing the exact thing that they told him, don't do it. And it's not like Michigan is the only one. Arizona State did the exact same thing, except like to a whole other level. But anyway, NCAA says, don't meet with recruits in person. There's evidence Jim Harbaugh met with recruits in person. The idea that this is some unfair punishment, it's the NCAA can't stand to see Michigan on top. It's ridiculous. It's always been ridiculous. And so today, the NCAA finds, hey, believe it or not, the University of Michigan broke recruiting rules. They broke the rules. It's an open and shut case. And so there are ramifications for that. There is probation that the football program will be put on. And one of the interesting things in the press release that stood out like a sore thumb, it's not even a allusion to who this is about. One of the statements was, one former coach did not participate in the agreement, and that portion of the case will be considered separately by the Committee on Infractions, after which the committee will release its full decision. I wonder who that former coach from Michigan is that wouldn't meet and wouldn't cooperate with the NCAA. I mean, I wonder if there were any like telltale signs of who that person could have possibly been. I wish I could get a good read on who that was. If only there was somebody that used to coach at Michigan last year that might have been uncooperative with the NCAA. I just wish there was somebody that fit that bill. And so the question I have with this statement of one former coach didn't participate, that will be considered separately. Is the NCAA done with Jim Harbaugh, or is the NCAA just getting started with Jim Harbaugh? And I know that the immediate reaction, especially from a Michigan fan, will be, this doesn't matter. Jim Harbaugh is now in the NFL. This should and will go away. The thing with that is, do you know how long the average NFL head coaching tenure is? It's 4.5 years. Jim Harbaugh is 60 years old. Does he strike you as the kind of guy that being the head coach of the Chargers is the last job of his career? Because my immediate reaction, my immediate read in the middle of April is no. No, it's not his last job. Does Jim Harbaugh strike me as the kind of guy who will coach until he's in his early 70s, like Mac Brown and like Nick Saban? Yeah, he does. That I think the game is a part of him, and coaching the game is a part of him to his core. And as long as he feels like he can do that, I think he will do that. So he's still got a little bit ahead of him, despite being 60 years old. If the average NFL head coaching tenure is 4.5 years, could Jim Harbaugh come back to college? Yeah. Yeah, he could. Especially if things don't go well for him with the Chargers, and especially if things don't go well for him, for Sherrone Moore at Michigan. Yeah, I could see him going back there again. Now, none of that matters if the NCAA slaps a show cause on Jim Harbaugh. And so that is the biggest question to me. Will they really, honestly, truly evaluate the portion of the case that will be considered separately by the Committee on Infractions because Jim Harbaugh didn't participate in the agreement? Or will they take the same thought process of, you know, the guy's not a coach in the NCAA anymore. He's an NFL head coach. Let's just let it go. And I think that might be likely to have happened if Jim Harbaugh didn't spend all of his time defending himself from the allegations that are 100% verifiable proof that you broke the rules by calling one into question the integrity of the NCAA, the character of those investigating you from the NCAA, and your insistence that you did nothing wrong and this was a witch hunt. Because there's not a more surefire way to get people on your side when you've done something wrong in 2024 than by saying, none of this is true, all of it is incorrect, this is a witch hunt because people don't like me. Except for when there's evidence that you broke the laws, you broke the rules that we told laws in some cases. You broke the rules that we told you not to break. We now have verifiable proof that you did that. And the entire time you have pounded the table and banged the drum. Hey, you didn't do it. I didn't do any of this. Well, you did. And so that makes you that makes the people chasing after you kind of want to make sure that you get your comeuppance when you're insistent that nothing you did was wrong. Like it's real easy to piss the people who can run you down a little bit off. So I would say that if Jim Harbaugh didn't say a word, didn't say a thing about the situation on his way back to the NFL, if he just said, yep, there are some allegations out there, but due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, I can't comment on them right now. You don't piss the NCAA off by saying that. Now, did the NCAA kind of act unprofessionally by releasing the statement when Jim Harbaugh says, it's because you're trying to tear me down because I bought a kid a cheeseburger. This is ridiculous. And they're like, yeah, bullshit. That's not really what's going on at all. Yeah, it's probably like they should also take the idea of like, due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, we cannot comment. They didn't do that either. So they're not 100% scot-free here. But they've got the leverage and the power in the situation. And so I think if Jim Harbaugh just had said, hey, yeah, I would love to chat about the NCAA investigations into our program, etc. But unfortunately, I'm not able to do that right now. And it's college football media. Nobody is pushing back on you all that hard unless it's that reporter from Seattle TV who's shoving it up Jed Fish's face that you knowingly played a player accused of sexual assault. And he's like, well, that happened before I got here. I didn't do anything wrong. It's college football media, and especially it's like Michigan media. They're not going, if Jim Harbaugh says, hey, I can't comment on that, they're not going to be like, that's not true. You can comment on it. You're just choosing not to. If he says, due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, I can't speak on that right now. There is no follow-up, but Jim Harbaugh can't avoid putting his foot in his mouth. He's got a long history, and I think that's a good thing. I think saying whatever the hell you think is an inherently good thing. I've done a podcast on this before. If you think it, say it. And if you mean it, mean it. If one of the things that drives me nuts is the idea that once a year, a coach will be like, I'm not going to name names, but these players, these people in the transfer portal, they're illegally tampering. Well, if they're doing it, say it. If you think people are breaking the rules, accuse them of doing it. Otherwise, shut up. So I appreciate Jim Harbaugh's inherent ability to just say whatever the hell comes to his brain. But part of that, having that attribute, is you have to deal with the consequences of what comes with saying whatever the hell comes to your brain. And so part of the consequences of saying whatever the hell comes to your brain is the NCAA maybe not giving up an investigation that they would have if you hadn't torn them down on your way out the door. So, is the NCAA done with Jim Harbaugh, or are they just getting started with Jim Harbaugh? I don't know that we have the answer to that right now, but I'm leaning towards just getting started, I think. Because otherwise, I think you look kind of weak if you just let somebody come in, break the rules when you got verifiable proof that they broke the rules. And then when they go to the NFL, you just go, oh, shucks, it's like they crossed state lines. Like, well, no, that's not what happened at all. You can still chase them, even if they're outside your jurisdiction. And you can make sure that if they do try to come back, you can lock them up. But I don't know if we'll see it get to that level or not. I think it'll be fascinating to watch how this all unfolds and how this all plays out in the coming weeks and months. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content that we're pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you are listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle here on Saturday Glory.